2017 was the year when many organizational members, and by that I mean the teachers and other school personnel who resigned in the ABC school, our pseudonym for this participant school, so as to preserve anonymity. And this year is the year in which it has recorded the highest attrition rate. Jokingly, the people there even called it as the Exodus phenomenon, an allusion when there's a group of people departed from one place. Meanwhile, the school also has a problem on enrollment, and that in the past years, the enrollment figures have been declining and the school has not been meeting its enrollment figures. Well, these two problems happened because of the little attention on deciphering and analyzing school's culture, which admittedly the school knows. In fact, scholars agree that school problems can be attributed to a lack of understanding of the school culture. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my research work titled Delving Deeper, an exploration on a school's organizational culture in terms of problems at work. And I am Louis Giray from Polytechnic University of the Philippines. That background led me to become curious to this phenomenon and to formalize, I have tried to endeavor into this question. What are the stories told by organizational members that describe the participant school's organizational culture in terms of dealing with problems encountered at work? As you see here, the organizational members of the school are viewed as communicative actors in which they are capable of communicative performances such as actions, rituals, and experiences, which can be encapsulated through the form of stories. According to Gertz and Pakanowski, these organizational stories can be classified into collegial stories, personal stories, and corporate stories. And all of these things together can help us understand the organizational culture of the ABC school. This is a case study we're in. It's just focused on one private school known as ABC school here in this setting, and it is case specific, meaning its results cannot be generalizable to other contexts. For research design, I utilize the interpretive qualitative research, which is in alignment with the theory use, and so that I can get implicit and taken for granted understandings that the quantitative ones cannot encapsulate. Richness of details is a prominent thing here in this design, and so it is rich and rounded, very fitting for my topic. To generate data, I use in-depth interviews, and for the participants, I recruited 12 employees of the ABC school, utilizing the convenient sampling method, and bearing in mind as well that there should be two participants per department, and so representation can be present. The immense data were analyzed thematically following the 6 steps suggested by Braun and Clark. This is the summary of the categories and themes in the study. For personal stories, the organizational members there had a difficulty transitioning in their first year of work, which is most especially true among the organizational members who entered right straight out from college. Well, they're in their 20 somethings, and They're still anxious on the many aspects of their lives, and they're still learning to adult and to transition to the work life. Normally, that's the reason. However, the organizational admission is stressful also for those who had experience already working in other institutions. Handling multiple roles and tasks was not easy for them, but they're trying to manage and cope through positively looking on the tasks. Lastly, they kept thoughts to themselves when confronted by issues, which is a manifestation of a low level of psychological safety there and can lead to low working performance. Meanwhile, we have the collegial stories. So here, they stated that they were helped by a colleague for once, and even though it's not in the contract, they were able to be helped and heard gossips in the school organization, heard that they were being talked about by others, which, according to the literature, is common and widely found in various organizations. So they just dismissed gossips and did not take any course of action because they did not see them as abrasive. However, for insensitive remarks by a colleague, they responded with the intention for the other party to stop, which, if the school won't deal with it properly, then an increase of turnover may be seen. For corporate stories, issues and concerns were properly managed by the school officers. Meetings and private chats were conducted to discuss them. They elevated the trust of the employees there, the organizational members, and the reputation of the organization. Meanwhile, fraternal correction was prevalent and constructively accepted, a very excellent for refining the various actions and deeds in the school premises. Nevertheless, they encountered situations in which a school officer did not become true to his words, and so they felt that the disappointment and the loss of trust, which is lugubrious because the Filipinos are very known for valuing palabra de honor, and this is a sign of low level of it. For the conclusion, we have one, the task-oriented culture. So the school has that because the attention is given more on tasks rather than relationships or emotions. Even though the organizational members have a lot of tasks, well, they just magnify the positive things there instead of relaying their concerns to the school leaders. Also, fraternal correction is predominant there. So mistakes are not tolerated. Tasks is being focused in such a school. Meanwhile, we have high level of restraint because customarily organizational members keep thoughts to themselves and they do not share concerns to or suggestions to other school officers. And this is because they anticipate that nothing will happen or that hostility will arise. They are unwilling to engage in a dialogue when, there's gossip or even other problems. They are uncomfortable when communicating ideas or any dissenting views. So the general culture here portrays unwillingness to say things that matter to them. And lastly, we have decline in integrity, which can be um, seen among the responses of the organizational members. Decline in integrity among the leaders. This is in complete opposition to the concept of men of integrity of the school, which the leaders do not act in alignment with the institutional laws and behavioral laws, and rather they choose to act or reflect with the social conventions. They become strict about rules and procedures at times, but other times they break from their leader persona and neglect the rules and conducts, especially when they're surrounded by law-breaking members. Given the findings and conclusions, I recommend the following. Number one, experiential training like the role play simulations and field visits. And so through this they can get to really learn the processes, and like if it's didactic lecture. Second is open door policy, which means that the school officers will be always open for communication, and that it must incorporate that no retaliation will occur when someone speaks up. Third is official gossip policy. So the school must define what gossip is, its scope, what is tolerated, what is illegal, the degrees and the respective consequences as well for clarification to everybody. Fourth is anonymous feedback policy and procedure, which is very important for shy organizational members and also promotes easy, open, and honest communication. Number five is the behavioral integrity training for school leaders so that they can be elucidated about the different challenges in terms of behavioral integrity, and that they can equip themselves with the necessary skills on such aspect like values clarification and humility when things go wrong. And lastly, widen the coverage of this research work. And like maybe instead of stories, they may want to involve metaphors, vocabulary, and rights used in the school organization. Or they want to use another approach like autoethnography or other recent research methodologies.